This is E-lectric, your source for news and views on the FIA Formula E Championship. Hello and welcome to E-lectric. I'm Janice Rochford and this is the circuit board, where I'll be joined by a rotating panel of those in the know about your Formula E Championship. Welcome to our Putrajaya race review show. Later on I'll be joined by Jack Giordmania of Formula E Zone to review the race in detail. But to start off, we have something very special for you from new member of the team, Kat Dow. Kat is a freelance journalist who covers racing and automotive with a focus on technology and future fuels. And we are very lucky to have Kat on board. She'll be sending us interviews and reports from selected races throughout the season. Here's Kat in Putrajaya pre-race.
Hi Jen, thanks. So we've had a crazy day here in Putrajaya. It's been incredibly warm. The day started off at about 24 degrees and has climbed up to about 36 degrees just before the race. On Thursday night I managed to catch up with Venturi Racing, who were working incredibly hard on putting the car together after the massive crash in Beijing. Here's what Lionel Chevalier had to say about that. Venturi garage. It is about 10:30 at night and I'm here with Lionel Chevalier, who is the team manager of Venturi. Now Lionel, today's been a bit of a pressured day, hasn't it?
It's a busy day, yeah, and it could be a full night of job. We don't know right now when we will finish to rebuild the cars. We don't have only one car to rebuild, but two cars.
And just to give listeners a little bit of background, obviously Nick Heidfeld, one of your drivers, was involved in the rather large collision on the final corner of the final lap in Beijing. The car tumbled and pretty much got completely destroyed. Was there anything salvageable?
Yes, we have got a huge crash without damage for the driver, fortunately. We proved that the car was safe. We couldn't use again the chassis because the chassis was broken, and we had to change the battery pack too. So most of the parts of the car are completely new.
But you've actually had to ship a broken car to Malaysia. Tell me a little bit more about that.
We started to do something in Beijing, but we had a deadline. That kind of time we couldn't do enough. So we didn't do a lot of job. We just tried to put four wheels on the car, just in order to roll with it and to put it in the box. When we arrive in Malaysia, it's not allowed to work 2 days before the event in order to reduce the cost, in order not to have too many people a long time on the circuits and spend money. And
is that a lot of pressure for your engineers?
Yeah, of course. We have to run tomorrow. Even if we have to work all the night, we will be ready for tomorrow, 3 p.m.
How many engineers approximately are working on these cars?
There's a regulation, so we are not allowed to be more than 6 mechanics for 4 cars, and there is 4 engineers for 4 cars.
And interestingly, your pit garage is just below the podium. What do you think your chances are for Stefan or Nick over the weekend?
Yes, we have a chance to win. Yes, totally.
And on one last note, do you think that there will be a huge effect on the battery or the heat of the cars, the cooling systems, because it is that much more humid here?
Yeah, yes, not a question of humidity. It's a question of air temperature. So of course it will be one of our main concern. We have to take care a lot of battery temperature and e-motor temperature.
Well, thank you very much indeed for your time. I wish you all the best for the race.
Okay, thank you so much.
Kat also managed to catch up with Bruno Senna and Katherine Legge, both recipients of the fan boost for the Putrajaya ePrix. Let's hear from them now.
Bruno, you have fan boost. You are well placed on the grid. How did qualifying go?
Qualifying was a bit disappointing, to be honest. We didn't get any practice with qualifying power before, so when I got to qualifying lap, I made a mistake and I got over the flag again. So never got a chance to push. But yeah, today I got fan boost. The race is long, lots of things can happen. So I'm looking forward to seeing what race is, because last time obviously I didn't go very far in the race in Beijing. So yeah, today there's good points to be scored, and hopefully we can get a few positions.
And I can see that you've got your bottle of water. How's the heat affecting you?
It's very hot. Luckily, I'm Brazilian, so I can deal with the heat. But yeah, I think surprisingly hot. And even though it's not even sunny now, it's still cloud cover. It's everybody seems to be struggling a little bit. So the cars are gonna suffer a little bit today, and hopefully we'll be okay.
Fantastic. Have a great race. Hi, Katherine Legge. You got fan boost.
I know, again, it's amazing.
Again, twice in a row. The only one, I think.
Hopefully it becomes a pattern. Just massively grateful to everybody who voted for me. And yeah, psyched that we got fan boost. It's brightened up my day because we've had a complete disaster so far today. So that's hopefully turned my day around.
And I did see that you tweeted out that, you hope the bad luck's coming to the end. How was qualifying? You seemed to struggle with the car. It seemed very, very awkward.
Yeah, so we've had problems all weekend. We had on the outlap, we broke down yesterday and rolled out, and then the same thing again this morning, and that car got parked around the back, so we had to change the battery in that car when it got back. I had to start qualifying in this car on old tyres, and we had a problem with the rear end. So it's been like one thing after another, really. And like,
you didn't lose your tyre, unlike Michaela.
Yeah, see, there's silver linings. But now I have fan boost. That's made me very happy. And hopefully we've, like I said in my tweet, we've got everything out of the way now.
Fantastic. Well, I wish you all the best.
Thanks, Kat. That was fabulous. Now it's time for the show proper. Let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Circuit Board. We're here for our Putrajaya review. I'm joined by Jack Giordmania from Formula E-Zone again. Hey, Jack.
Hello, how are you?
And it's just you and me to go through Putrajaya. Like
Yes.
the wind and the electric cars that took it by storm rather than getting stormed on, fortunately.
Yeah, that was the main reason why it was moved 2 hours earlier. So it was even earlier for us to, or later for in terms of time difference to actually, watch the race. But thank God the rain didn't come. There looked like there was threat of rain, but
That's right. We had a few
it stayed
spots, but
yeah, spots at the end.
nothing to write home about, certainly. And I was talking to a friend in Singapore who said that the heavens just opened up straight afterwards.
Wow.
Like it was a hell of a fun race for a second race.
It was a very exciting race, especially the start. I was thinking at the time, I was wondering if, we missed the formation lap. I know the formation lap was very slow, but when we saw a lot of cars in the first lap locking up, hitting each other, it looked like the brakes were very cold, and I think we might have missed that a little bit from a formation lap, but then, the counter argument was it took 6 minutes and it was very slow. It wouldn't have done it anyway, so... But I just thought to myself, I wonder if we would have had the collisions in the first corner if we did a formation lap. That was my question.
Yeah, I kind of think we would have, because I just think those cars have no grip. As much as I know that everyone sort of says, oh, they've got these all-terrain world road tyres. They're not. It's like those tyres are like always on the edge of adhesion, I think.
Yeah, Michaela said the car is, Michaela Taruti from Giuliano Trulli team said that the car is very hard to drive. It's very slippery. You have to manage to torque a lot, and you don't have much grip. And these tyres, I don't think they've been put to the test yet. I think we need some rain. I know we tried to avoid the rain in order to in Malaysia, but there's a lot of if it rains, what's going to happen, which we've discussed in previous podcasts. Mm-hmm. But the tyres are very slippery. They don't give much grip, which makes it exciting. Don't get me wrong. You've got drivers drifting it basically out of corners and losing the back end and making mistakes, which we don't see top drivers do. Which is for fans makes it absolutely amazing to watch. Yeah. But I feel we still need the tyres, still need to be tested to see what improvements we could possibly make in that area.
I want to see rain, but not until they get the safety car under control, because. Yes. It's for me. It's still a letdown that the safety car seems to take probably half a lap too long to come out, and then stays out half a lap too long.
It's like Formula One. It's the same concept. The FIA is not very good, too safe with the safety car, you could say.
Yeah, I think that in a lot of cases, if we went with the is it the virtual safety car from Le Mans, where they go a full course 60 or something like that, that would work.
Or in a sector.
Yeah. I think that would work, especially with these cars. It's not like they go that fast,
Yes.
So
no, I think the virtual safety car will be a thing that will clock on in a lot of series. in the future. And it makes sense, what's the point of stopping the race, and then like Sam Bird, he had such a big lead, and, and same with any other series, he has such a big lead and he gets wiped out if you just go through a slow zone, which everyone has to go through for a lap.
Yep.
And that might be enough time, because as you said, these cars are not the quickest at the moment, so there is enough time for a marshal to go, once everyone's cleared, to go out and actually get the piece of debris out of the way, or try and move the car out of the way before they come back again, because lap times we're looking at about 1 minute 40. So once everyone's gone past the slow zone, you've got about 1 minute and 20 seconds to try and do something, because the field is quite close together. So it could be a good thing for the series if they do implement it, but maybe for future seasons.
Yeah, look, I think it's one of those things that'll trickle down through the formulas. But the good thing about Formula E is they haven't been afraid to make changes on the fly, which some of the teams don't like. But I think for a series that's not a world championship yet, they can do that. They can just go, okay, we need to make a change. Let's do it now. And the first season's the perfect time to do that.
Of course, it's learning for everybody, isn't it? So everyone needs to learn, and the promoters of Formula E, they need to learn what works well, what works bad. If they can see there's problems, it's better acting right now. We've got such a long season. Really, I know we've only got 9 races, maybe 10, but the season doesn't finish till June. So from now we're in November going into December. June is a long time away if you think about it.
Yep.
So going through the rest of that season, not making any changes, and we have time between races to get together and make the changes. So.
Yep, I think I agree. It'll be nice to see, and of course, on a sidebar, they have set up FETA, which is the Formula E Teams Association, headed up by Oliver Weingarten, who used to run FOTA, the Formula One Teams Association, and because obviously the teams are sort of getting in early and going, let's get together and make concrete decisions together, rather than sort of working to the advantage. And we don't have that rich team, poor team thing yet.
No. And I hope Formula E obviously don't go down the route of Formula One. I think, Formula E can learn a lot from the mistakes Formula One has made. But I think it's good that they've made this bond, so the teams stick together. And I think, they need to learn from how Formula One have been with photos. And, let's keep everybody in this association. Let's not one team in. Let's have everyone in, get a good collaboration from the start, be friendly with each other, which I think so far most of the teams are quite friendly with each other. So let's just keep that friendliness together and work together, rather than actually working against each other, which seems to happen a lot in Formula One.
Yep, absolutely. So we had the very short formation non-lap. They rolled up 3 grid spaces before the start, which I know we talked about not having brakes, but I kind of thought it worked well, because I thought it meant everyone got away.
Yeah.
And we didn't have that sort of weird, oh my god, someone stopped on the grid. And which was nice. But Daniel Abt had some sort of issue coming off the start and dropped back through the pack dramatically. Going from third, where he looked really good. He had tapped that car into the wall in qualifying, as we discussed on the qualifying show. But he went from third to 17th, I think I wrote down.
Yes. He just looked like a simple case of bogging down, or like the electricity just, didn't, just engage with the car, because it did engage eventually.
Yeah.
Where he's just about a time, and he did well, because it's so narrow, and he did move over to the left with please don't hit me.
Yes.
But, as we go through, so he did try and actually make the room, and he did a decent job in order to try and make his way back through the field. Later on in the race, we had a bit of a crazy strategy, but it could have worked, and he did eventually, with the crash at the end of the race, which we'll get onto, it did lend to a point at the end of the race, so something was gained out of it.
Exactly. And he was, I think, apt, willing to try things differently, and that they're probably going to prompt other teams to try things differently throughout the race. I mean, even Virgin decided to try things differently with Sam's car, which we'll get to. But let's go team by team, because after lap 1, which had a few incidents, there was lots of incidents through the race. It was a really dodgem car race. So
yes.
It was, again, fun. I like watching it. And the commentators were right into it. Jack Nicholls got very excited quite a lot. And when I was watching the replay earlier, I had it on 2 times speed because, I was running a bit behind. And listening to Jack Nicholls get excited when the audio is at 2 times speed is like listening to a chipmunk on Red Bull.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, it was great. I may even record some of that and edited it at the end because it's worth listening to him get so excited about people passing. And I got excited.
Sounding like a chipmunk.
Yeah. And I got excited along with him. Fun. I thought the commentators added a really good atmosphere to the race this time. It felt like they knew what they were doing a bit more. They probably had the old race and went over it a few times in between because, we had so long to do that. And it really felt like a much slicker production from ITV this race.
Definitely. They seem to work well. Obviously, they're still learning because, there's a lot to learn with this sport, making sure they get everything right. And, things are happening at a much slower speed, you could say, than what people like Jack Nicholls are used to because he's the 5 Live commentator for Formula One. So he does the production on BBC for Formula One. So he can be on the radio basically for the Formula One races. So he's used to the fast pace of Formula One and then going into a much slower pace of Formula E. And I think I've heard him and I can see him willing them on running out of words, you could say, by the time they get into the corner because he's so used to having cars quick. They're into the corner and now he's like, and they're going into the corner and he's passing.
Yeah, exactly. And you did catch that a few times. But his excitement was really infectious and yeah, I thought it was great. I'm all over the place today. Anyway, but I'm going to go back to lap 1 because there was a lot that happened on lap 1. Turn 5, Montagny starts his day of playing Belgium cars with everyone. I don't know whether he just was excited by how much he got to overtake everyone last time because last race everyone else was a bit on the back foot and he was just throwing the car around, or whether and this race everyone else is now sort of a bit more confident and he's getting caught out because he breaks that bit later and I'm just not sure what was going through his head this race.
I think he had. I know it was a disappointing race, but he kind of did the same as he did in Beijing, which you pointed out. I just think he was too optimistic. He saw a move, and I think we're going to see this a lot from Frank throughout the season. He's going to I'm going to stick it down the inside, and it's going to be like one of those Prost or Senna's. If you have to give way, otherwise we're going to have a crash.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's what he did throughout the whole race. He did in Beijing, and he got away with it in Beijing because drivers went, I'm scared, and out of the way, and then Frank goes through like happened in Beijing. But today and in the race, it was just like argy-bargy, but that's Frank. I think we're going to love watching Frank this over the course of the season. And I think if he's behind someone, we know he's going to attack. And I think, getting it early into the mindset of the driver in front, he's going to get a move, is going to put him psychologically in an advantage during an overtake the future races.
Absolutely.
But obviously the bad side of that is that if they don't get scared of him, then there's a chance of that collision happening, which, went against Frank in the race.
Yes. So we come to nearly the conclusion of lap 1, and Legge takes out Cerruti. Katherine, it just looked like she sort of stepped out to make the overtake, which was probably a bit optimistic on that overtake. Put the power down, and the rears just stepped right out on her, and she's just speared into the side of Cerruti. It was like when it was like she got torque steer, I thought.
Yeah, it was very similar to the Vettel Button crash.
Yes,
if you remember in 2011, where in Spa when Vettel went into the side of Button's radio, it was very similar to that. He stepped out. I don't think at the early stages of the race it could have been for Legge. It could have been maybe cold tyres, cold brakes. Maybe she didn't manage to torque the car. Obviously, these cars have a lot of torque, so braking maybe the rear just completely stepped out. It was too much braking force maybe.
Yeah.
And the rears couldn't cope with that, so maybe she went in maybe just a little bit too late on the brakes, and maybe with cold brakes and too much power was just a little bit too much for the car. And poor old Cerruti, she couldn't do much in that race.
No, and there is some talk that it's that perhaps the regen early in the race is catching people out because they're not sure how much power they're going to get. So they're running for the first like 5 laps, they're running this really low sort of brake adhesion, and so and then by the time the regen evens out, I don't even know how that works. I'm going to have to talk to my engineer husband about how that works, because I don't really understand how you can get regen evening out. But the she might have been caught out because she just didn't expect to get quite so much power so early on, and just slid across track. On lap 1, Brabham gets crossed up for the first time. Young Matty Brabham just seemed to struggle with the slickness of the cars again. He spun probably, I think 3 times by the end of the race. So he tapped Heidfeld, which was the first time Heidfeld got tapped, and then we had that safety car. And
that did bring the first safety car.
Yeah, so, and it was, to their credit, this time it was only 2 laps. It came out on lap 2, it was in on lap 4, and, it wasn't too bad. They did have a bit of mess in terms of getting Brabham to unlap himself. I don't know whether he was actually unlapping himself or just getting back in front of the safety car, because he was in this odd spot behind the safety car at one point. It's like, what is going on? But
it was pretty similar to what we see in Formula 1 when the safety car picks up not the leader. So Brabham obviously wasn't the leader. It was like, well, let me through. But I don't know if they just didn't realise he was the leader, or it just took a while to communicate that we should let him through in order to join the back of the pack, because he was stuck there for a while.
Exactly.
But he eventually got through. I think it was probably more of a miscommunication rather than just not passing it.
Exactly. Teams started to come in for pits around lap 18, because we had the 2 safety cars beforehand, because of course we had the second safety car for Montagny taking out Heidfeld. Again, Frank just got a little excited. I don't think that... I know everyone says this was Frank's fault, but I was watching the replay, and he does hit that little bump in the curve, and I think he just, as he does that, the fact that he had a bit too much speed in, he hits that little bump, and he's just got no chance to stop. Like, there's no contact with the track for him to brake. So he just goes straight into the side of Heidfeld, and Heidfeld's left staring at the barriers again. You've got to feel sorry for Heidfeld.
Yeah, he really hated their Andre cars. Obviously, we just talked about Brabham here, and then the next one comes up and gives him a better shove this time to make sure he definitely goes out of the race.
Exactly. Look, I was kind of worried at this point. I'm watching the race the first time around, and I'm worried. I'm thinking, if we have a safety car every 2 or 3 laps, this is going to be hell. Like, this is going to be awful. So, fortunately, after that, we got some clear running, and Sam Bird took advantage of that restart and got Servier out of turn 3 and just smashed it. Like, it was like he had a completely different car to everyone else from that point on.
I think Sam Bird's race was completely opposite to how Servier, when I did an interview with Servier. Sam obviously really attacked the first stint, but they got the battery life. So I think what Virgin have done with their car, they've managed to find a pace which is comfortable for the car to go at, and be able to keep battery life and a decent amount of battery life without using too much battery power throughout the car. Whereas Servier, on the other hand, was conserving because he knew that his second car was quicker than his first car.
Yep.
And we'll get on to Servier's racing later, but I think so. It was just like, because Servier ended up holding everybody up in the first part of the race, and obviously that allowed Sam Bird's lead to completely extend dramatically to the point where he couldn't be caught.
Yep.
But then Servier said in an interview afterwards, which I'll get onto later, they came out 18. He lost 18.5 seconds in the pit stop, and he finished 18.9 seconds behind. So he would have been 4 tenths behind if he got through the cars, saying quickly and cleanly. He would have been right by Sam by the end of the race. But I'll get on to why Servier. That can be like a little, keep with us.
I will
find out what happened to Servier's race.
Find out what happens. Stay tuned, because I will go back to what I've said 3 times that we'll go back to doing this by team. But I'm terrible. It's my podcast, as I said during the thing with the boys. I like to go on sidebars, and if you're listeners, this will always be like this, because my mind's like box of cats. So, just stomps all around all over the place. So
it's great though.
Yes, that's what we do. The Montagny did get a 23-second time penalty at the end of the race for that collision with Heidfeld. The same with Ms. Legge. She also got a 23-second time penalty. She'll also take a 10-place grid penalty into the next race for changing her energy recovery system. I think that's what it is. It's the RES system. Yes. I'm pretty sure that's the energy recovery. So that's it. We are going team by team now. Let's start.
Try our best to stick team by team. Try our best.
Try our best. Okay, I'm going to go alphabetically because I don't have the championship standings in front of me. So let's start with Amlin Aguri. Antonio Felix. We know what happened to Katherine Legge. Antonio Felix da Costa, his first race. What did you think?
I think it was a good race from Antonio. He did, we all know he's a solid driver, and I think we can expect, he will be able to get the bulk of the points maybe this season, while Katherine Legge, gets up to speed a little bit. I feel like Katherine Legge still needs to find her way, a bit like Cerruti, because we saw Jarno Trulli do really well back down in Aguri.
Yes.
But with Antonio, he got 4 points from the race, finished in 8th place, I believe that is correct.
Yep, finished in 8th.
Finished in 8th, and he had a good solid race, and Amlin Aguri struggled a lot in Beijing. They knew where they struggled, and they've come out and they've got some points. They're off the board now. Although they got points from fastest lap with Takuma Sato in Beijing, but they first finishing position in the actual points, which was good for Antonio, obviously on his first race. And I think he's a driver that's going to learn this car pretty quickly, and he's going to be able to produce some good results. And that's what Amlin Aguri are hoping for. They're hoping to be top 5 by some point this season. So, I reckon Antonio will be the driver to get him up there.
I agree. I think he could really do, his career could really do with the confidence of being up there in a championship again. I want to say the poor kid, but, he's 23. He's DTM, he's all over Twitter saying how enthusiastic he is about DTM, but really, he's had the most disappointing season poodling around in the middle of the pack, and just continually having, every time he gains a couple of places and you think he's going to finish in the top 10 in DTM, something happens, or he pits and something goes wrong in the pits, or he just crosses it up and locks it up and then drops back to 13th again. I feel like I've watched the entire season with him driving around in 13th in DTM. So I was a little bit worried when he was in 13th for the race. I was like, no, not again. I want you to have a good race. Moving on to Andretti, we've spoken a lot about Frank already, and he did get a speeding in the pit lane infringement as well. Yes, Frank. Oh, and he did give us one of the great moments of the race, actually. The pit crew kicking and smashing the front wing to get it out from under the car.
Yes.
I was like, oh, that's a lot of money.
That was great, but needs must to get the car out, needs must, isn't it? Just get it off.
Yeah.
I don't care how you do it, just get it off.
And we did get the great shot of Aguri Suzuki having a giggle at them doing it, so that was nice.
Yes.
But Frank, like you said, he's going to be so exciting this season.
He's going to be amazing to watch, and if this championship needed something to grip onto in order to come back race by race, Frank is definitely a driver. Come and watch Fast Frank.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's going to put on a great show for you. And 2 races so far, and yes, in terms of driving, he finished in 15th, but and was a lap down, and obviously with his penalty, it did make things worse. But we had some exciting racing because of him.
Mm-hmm.
He's putting the moves. So you'd rather have a driver that goes for it than one that doesn't. So
you completely turned me around, because Frank was going to be my short circuit in the race, and you've made me go, no, I'm wrong. I'm just flat out wrong. I'm not the Fonz. I can say the word I'm wrong. And yeah, he wasn't. You're right. He injected a lot of excitement there. And if we see Charles Pic back, we'll have Fast Frank and Quick Pic. I'm so excited about being able to say Fast Frank and Quick Pic. It's ridiculous.
But overall about Andretti, I think that they were really disappointed about the race. Obviously, coming off of such a great result in Beijing, and they won. And Andretti obviously has got its big heritage in America. That's a team that needs to be performing well, and 13th and 15th places are not where Andretti wanted to be. So I know they would have been very disappointed. So, I think they're definitely a team that will be strong again in Uruguay in a couple of weeks' time.
Absolutely, and I think I think we're going to see a bit of rotation in that second seat of theirs. They do have Fabio Lima, who was rumoured to have the seat early on, but who decided to sort of stick to his WEC commitments. WEC's over this weekend,
Yep.
So we could see him back in that seat. We could see Charles Pic as the Formula One season is over, and of course we've got Matty Brabham from their Indy Lights team, which I think is great. I'd love to see some of the juniors rotate through these second seats, even if we're not really calling them second seats. But I'd love to see some of the young guys rotate through them. It's exciting. It's nice to see different names on the grid. Did you hear Rod from Super License had this great idea that we should not have a drivers' championship? And
yeah, I disagreed.
That's all right.
Strongly.
We all kind of disagree, but I kind of liked it as well. It's like, I understand we should have a drivers' championship because otherwise why would the drivers drive? But at the same time, I like the idea of being able to have these rotating big names in for the first season anyway, when it really doesn't matter that much. Someone...
Yeah, but to these drivers, it matters a lot who wins and who ends up winning the championship at the end of it. But yeah, I wasn't a big strong believer of it because I felt like, Formula E we need to hit the ground running, and I think if we took a drivers' championship out of it, then that's the most exciting thing about watching racing is the drivers' championship. As much as we think about the team's constructors' championship, it's not what people end up watching the races for. They end up watching the races for the drivers' championship. And I understood it was Rod that said that.
Yeah.
I understand because if drivers drop out, then they're missing races. So it's not a proper championship because it wasn't a set of 20 drivers that race from race 1 to race 10. And I understand that, and I agree with that. And I think we're going to get that because Formula E still needs to solidify itself as a respectable franchise or a respectable racing series. It hasn't done that yet. It's still booming. It's still in its early stages of its life. It's not as established as the World Endurance Championship or WEC, as you love to call it, or GP2 World Touring Cars. It's not there yet, but it will get there. Give it time, and when it does get there, then drivers will stick around for longer, and I think we will see less rotation of drivers. But at the moment, it's nice to see a good field of young drivers coming through.
Yeah, and speaking of drivers that have stuck around, let's move on to Audi Sport Abt. Daniel Abt did decide to stick around when he could have been racing GP2 last weekend. He had a rough start, and the team took a real gamble on strategy by bringing him in on lap 10 and running that second car to the end of the race. So, that was a big call.
It was a very big call. And full credit, they had to do something different. It was a horrible start to the race. And, he's down the bottom of the field and it's like with anything with strategy, look, what can we do? So they probably would have been doing something to the car in the pit to try and see if they could extend the life of the battery while he was out on track, because they probably decided that they were going to do this. And, it worked. He did fall out of points with him due to the crash at the end of the race. He managed to, leapfrog back into the point, so he still got a point from it. So there was some worthwhile from it. It was a shame he went so slow at the end. I think, they probably need to do more testing on that. I don't think in testing, when I was at the testing sessions, that they did, like they pitted early in the race simulations that they did and tried to run and see how far they could go. I don't think many teams did it, so I think it was such a learning curve. Then maybe they could have gone a bit quicker. Because there was at times of the race, I'm like, there's 9 laps to go. He's got 45% battery. If he goes at this speed and they're losing about 4% a lap, so if he can do that, maybe he has a chance here. Maybe he's not out of it. But at the time Sam Berg was catching 3 seconds a lap, I think maybe he's not pushing as hard as I think he should be. But I was trying to do the maths in my head, and I was like,
I can't believe you had time to do the math. And it was so early for you when you were doing math. No. So, and at the other end of the spectrum, Lucas Di Grassi continues to absolutely shine in this formula. I know he's got more experience in the car than anyone else on the grid, but he's pure class out there right now.
Well, we know Lucas Di Grassi is a great driver. When he came into Formula One, we were a bit iffy about it because he did. I know he was in the Virgin car, but he struggled in that car. And he went to World Endurance Championship, and he's completely shone there. And I think he's matured a lot since his time in the World Endurance Championship with Audi. And I think he's become a better driver from that. And he's stepped into the Formula E test role when they were testing, and I think that was crucial. And I think it was a very good job that Audi to quickly sign him up.
Yep, I agree.
Because obviously you want the driver with the most experience of how to drive these cars because it gives you a head start. And that's exactly what he's giving Audi Sport at the moment, because obviously second place in Putrajaya coming from the back of a field is a great result, especially on the street circuit. But, I think we're saying street circuit now. And I'm starting to think with these cars and how slippery and how it's easy to make mistakes and easy to overtake. I think now it's not as insane as easy, but it's proper overtaking. They're getting side by side, and there is room on these tracks to overtake. It's not like, I think Monaco will be be a very different race, obviously because we know how tight it is. But the races that they've made so far, they seem very open. And same with Putrajaya when we go to there in a couple of weeks. It looks kind of wide. It looks like there's room to manoeuvre. So it looks like a proper racing circuit rather than, obviously it's on a street. So there is room to overtake them. But it's still difficult, as Frank obviously proved with Heidfeld, and everyone has proven that race it's difficult to overtake. But Di Grassi did a great job with it, and they managed the strategy well, and he got up, and he was in front of the two Dams cars, which is a good achievement because that's the main team Audi will be looking to beat this season. So it was a good race from Lucas.
That's right, it was fantastic. On to China racing. Ho Pung Tung again, he finished 11th. But I felt like I didn't see him aside from the one point when he spun in the background of one of the shots. I wouldn't have known he was racing. Seriously.
I was confused he was even there because China Racing about 2-3 weeks ago released a statement that Antonio Garcia will be racing in Malaysia. Yeah, nothing has been said since from those 2 weeks. It was an official team statement.
Yeah, it was.
Hopington is going to be racing in his Asian Le Mans series. And then, we get there Thursday. Hopington's name is on the... What's he doing?
I just thought... honestly, by the time we were recording the pre-race show, I was like, yeah, I don't know what's going on. But I honestly think they don't know what's going on.
I will try and actually find an answer for it, but... It was just very surprising that I was like, "Hello, how are you?"
I hope you guys
I wasn't expecting to see you here today.
Exactly. I hope you guys can't hear my stomach grumbling in the background. It is early and I haven't eaten breakfast, and it's just decided that it's going to tell everyone that I haven't eaten breakfast. I wonder whether their PR is being handled by an English firm. This is my suspicion that their PR is being handled by an English firm, and there is a communication breakdown between their PR company and the team. Because I just don't feel like they give quality information at any point throughout the weekend. But yes, we have Nelson Piquet Jr., who again produced some pretty exciting moves. The move he put on, he just kept looking for the moves. Which was great. But then, of course, Trulli decided to take him out on lap 22.
Sadly, yes.
Trulli was having such a good race and then he just does that brain fade where he fails to look in his side mirror as well, and that's it. Nelson Piquet's
lack of concentration from Jarno Trulli. Yeah, Piquet had a great race, and it was a much improved performance from China Racing from Nelson Piquet, obviously not having the best home race. In China, but I think a lot of teams improved dramatically in Malaysia, and they're going to improve week in, week out, and how we might see a completely different championship by the time we get to the end in London or Monaco.
Agreed. We still have no word on whether Battersea Park's been approved. It is in council approvals. I've been following the story, but
it is very close. I can't see it being anywhere else. I've been in discussions with people from Wandsworth, the council that Battersea Park's in, and they kind of know that it's going to happen. It's London, so they've tried their uttermost best to make sure it doesn't happen. it's just being in London and you read the papers and everyone's very negative about everything. It doesn't have to be about motor racing. If anything comes to town, they're negative.
Melbourne's
it's just the London way. I would just put it to that now. I was having a conversation. I can't remember who it was actually. Just a random conversation with someone from the council, and I was like, yeah, but how it's going to put back. I know Battersea's already on the map and it's got great, but you're going to be showing it to the world. Surely that's big. And they agreed to that. They said, yeah, that's important, but we're worried about having 40,000 people say walking around the park and damaging it. So I was like, I said to them, it's not hard to put up restriction zones. Just put areas, just barricade it up and say, look, you can't go here, and just create a path that you're okay with for spectators to walk around you. You can set up grandstands not inside the park, but outside the park, where the track actually is. So he said there is room, and you'll have so much tourists coming into Battersea Park, and they couldn't say no to these. They knew this, and this is why I think Battersea Park is going to do it, because they understand the benefits that they're going to get from holding a Formula E race. It's just they're too scared about damaging the park.
Exactly. It's interesting because we, in Melbourne, we have the MCG, which is our big, it's called the Melbourne Cricket Ground, but it's really where we play lots of football. And every football match, there's 60,000 to 100,000 people there. And it's in the middle of parks. So 60,000 to 100,000 people traipse across the parks, drive their cars in. We actually have parking on the parks. Those parks recover. I mean, yes, there's a community group who don't like that we park on it, and they change the parking up so that one area doesn't sort of turn into dead grass and stuff like that. But do you know what? I lived in that area for a long time. Those parks are still beautiful. 100-year-old trees. The fact that there's 100,000 people there on a weekend doesn't hurt them at all. So it's about park management and things like that. And wow, that's way off topic when we start talking about 100-year-old trees. But let's move on to Dragon Racing. The Oriol Servia, just great qualifying, and part of me wants to say great qualifying from the old man, but he's
40-year-old Spaniard.
He's 40-year-old Spaniard. Yes, he's a great driver. He's one of those guys that I'd barely heard of before Formula E, because I just don't follow the things that he has raced in. But he really looked excellent in qualifying, and so did Jerome D'Ambrosio. He just unfortunately used too much power in qualifying and got shunted to the back of the grid. You've got some information on Oriol Servia for us.
Yes, I do have some information from Servia. Basically, so he had a slow start to the race. Let's say he was, causing the Servia train, you could say, but he knew that his second car was faster. So he came into the pit stops knowing that, got a faster car, I'm going to attack. This is the time I'm going to attack. But he got into his second car, and it wouldn't go in first gear.
Oh.
So they lost 18 seconds, he said, 18 and a half seconds from the pit stop that they had. And he said we finished 18.9 seconds behind, and they're already quite about 10 seconds at this point behind Sam Bird. So he said, look, we had the pace to, challenge. Our pace wasn't non-existent in the race. We had the pace. It's just, I showed it, but it wasn't noticed because I was so far that getting back through the field from the time that he lost because he got stuck in gear in the pit lane, that we didn't see it. But when I heard it, and did the interview, I was like, oh, that's actually quite interesting. And so,
but he did
Dragon Race.
Yeah, he did finish 7th, so that was great. And Jerome D'Ambrosio did finish 5th after being bumped to the back of the grid as well. So Jerome's another one who, he had this really lackluster Formula One career. Lackluster's probably even a little bit kind, but has found a way to shine, and he presents really well in interviews I was watching the pre-race show again this morning, and he's very animated like Frank, and presents really well. I think once fans start to see more of Jerome, he might get a fan boost even. Kat Dow managed to catch up with Jerome before the race and chatted to him about that penalty and how hard it was to get those cars set up before the race. Here's Kat.
So Jerome, you're right at the back of the grid. A little bit disappointing because you looked so happy to be right at the front.
Yeah, I mean it was a great qualifying, and you know, being a lockout front row lockout for Dragon was amazing because the team did a great job. Now, you know, we get new bits and pieces at every races, and it's not always easy to calibrate them. And especially here, we had only one free practice, so we were a bit over in free practice, and we corrected, but it wasn't enough. So that's just, you know, the rules are the rules, and you get to comply with them. So I'll do my best in a race now. Should be exciting from the back.
Is there no limiter on the car to actually limit it to 200?
Well, there's a software that, you know, it should be. Yeah, you have to approach the limit, but you could put setups in there that could actually go a little bit over. But obviously, you're talking about small, very small amounts, and every sensor has some noise on them, and so to calibrate that is not easy. It's not like you have a flat value all through the lap. Sometimes when you upshift or downshift, or when you flat out in a straight line, the value varies a bit, and so that's why we get caught up. But that's the same for everyone.
You've got a lot of work to do. You've got 19 cars ahead of you to overtake.
Yeah,
how do you fancy your chances now?
Well, for sure, I got to give it all, and you know, nothing to lose. But at the same time, you got to finish to take some points. What I think is that well, hopefully the rain's going to come, and that might help me. But we'll see. I think it's just do my best, and then take it from there.
Well, here's wishing you all the best for your race.
They're a good outfit, Dragon, and I think the problem is in my head that every time I hear Dragon, I think China Racing, and so I get really confused because the car with the Dragon on the side is China Racing. It's like, oh, damn it. Damn it.
Yeah.
I'm a professional broadcaster here. I can't keep the team straight. Is there anything else to say about Dragon?
Jerome, I think he had a very good race. I think, you know, Dragon still, and quite a few teams, you know, struggling with teething problems, like, you know, using too much energy in qualifying. Obviously, they need to make sure that they can manage this, because it's these sort of problems that we've seen post-race with Daniel Abt in Beijing, and, you know, after qualifying for Jerome. You know, it's silly penalties to give away, but they need to get on top of that, because it would have been so great for Dragon Racing to have a 1-2, and it was cruelly taken away from him. But, you know, they should have realised that they were using too much energy.
Exactly. They need to sort out the notifications to the driver, whether it's that bit of little screen on the steering wheel or something.
Yeah, but we all know that Jerome's a great driver. Look, he did exactly the same as Degrassi and Buemi, who came from the back of the field to finish in the top 5. And so we know Jerome can do what he can do, and we know that Dragon seem now to have a car that can actually challenge from their lackluster pre-season testing and their very average pedestrian Beijing race, and then suddenly in Malaysia they've learned something in the 70-day break that we've had, and it's clicked right into action.
Kind of astounds me that anyone learnt anything in the 70-day break, considering that the cars are in boxes halfway across the world. But, you know, that's the beauty of all the telemetry that they pull out these days. So that's kind of exciting. On to Buemi. Edams did a 3 and 4. That's just astounding, really, with Buemi coming from the back, and Prost.
After his penalty in 11th.
That's right. I couldn't remember where Prost came. But yeah, that's exactly what EDMs would have wanted. Really, I mean, I know they would have wanted to be 1-2, but you can't sneeze at the championship points from 3 and 4 either.
No, you can't, and I think Edams, as most people predicted from testing, they were unstoppable. You know, Sebastian Buemi quickest in 4 out of the 5 days, with Degrassi being the quickest, and Prost putting it on pole in 2 races. Mm-hmm. You know, we know they have the speed, and they do look the quickest car. I do feel, though, that they have lost some of the advantages they've had from testing and in Beijing, because teams are catching them up quickly. And you saw with Virgin were nowhere in Beijing, but suddenly, you know, quickest in practice with Sam Bird, 4th place, winning the race by miles.
Mm-hmm. Fastest lap for Jaime Alguersuari as
and
well.
Fastest lap for Jaime Alguersuari in the race, you know, which shows that, you know, teams they're not standing still. Yes, you know, the boxes you can't do much to the cars, but what they're learning from telemetry and setups, which they said, which would be the main determining factor this season, is how you set up their cars, and, you know, what they're learning from that. And need to find something else, because they probably learnt quicker than the others, but the others are catching them up now with obviously the similar cars. Once they catch up, that's it. You could find yourself qualifying 12th or 11th or finishing 10th and 11th. And you're like, whoa, we were winning. What's happened? And
Exactly.
in any other race series, you'd think that wouldn't happen because it's ludicrous. But because the cars are all the same, and it's just about learning and tweaking the car for different tracks. And if you get it right for a certain track, you're in business. If you get it wrong, and if you muck up your practice, which Heitfeld could have said, he had that incident in practice, so he didn't have enough time to, develop and car proper setup for the race, so he kind of struggled through qualifying in the race, which we didn't expect from Mr. Reliable, who is now Mr. Unreliable.
Exactly.
In Formula E, who is now in Formula E. But EDAMS, they're going to be. I reckon they'll still be the team to beat, but they need to keep they're on their heels rather than having a bit of a comfortable cushion.
Yep, I agree. And the racing between Buemi and Grassi to the end was just fabulous. It was so much fun to watch these two drivers who were really confident in their abilities, pushing these cars to the limit and fighting it out to the end of the race. Sam had taken off, and that was fine. I've never been one to say I get annoyed when a driver takes off and is always going to win the race, but Lucas and Sebastian just had awesome time. They looked like they had so much fun, and I'm hoping to catch up with one of them to find out how much fun they had, but we'll talk about that another time. On to Mahindra, another a team that I didn't expect to sort of fade into the background, and they totally faded into the background.
Mahindra, they always promise early. Bruno Senna again, like in Beijing, practicing qualifying, lining up the timing screens, and failed at the crucial point in qualifying to do the lap, like happened in Beijing. Same in practice. For a certain amount of period, Bruno Senna, fastest. Mahindra are there. And you're like, man, maybe they are the team to beat, but they just can't get it right.
No.
In the crucial stages in the race, Corinne Channel had a decent race, but he faded back a little bit and then caught himself back up. So it's just like, and Bruno Senna, obviously, he was there and had a good race, but still had his knocks and completely bent his steering in the first part of the race, and he did amazingly well. Full credit to Bruno Senna to how he adapted and as quickly as he could to a bent steering wheel. Literally, I think it was the left was on the top, and he was steering and he was posting lap times as quick with a bent steering wheel than he did with a straight one.
That's true. The thing with Chandok is he finished sixth. And we're talking about what a bad race he had. It's just, that's the quality of this championship.
No, 100%.
So, you really can't. I may have engaged with trolls on the internet this week. I never do it. I barely even read the comments on the internet because I'm one of those people that just believes it's a complete waste of your life. But my husband was away, so I was sitting in front of the computer, and someone decided to go through one of the Formula E videos on YouTube and tell everyone how disappointed they would be in this championship. And he proceeded. The gentleman proceeded to tell us that he was a racing fan of over 10 years, and if he just replied to the video and said he wasn't impressed, I wouldn't have said anything. But he proceeded to go through and comment on everyone else's comments who were enthusiastic about it and tell us how disappointed we were going to be. So I may have broken out the sarcasm and pointed out, as a fellow race motorsport fan of over 10 years, how he was perhaps wrong. I never do that, and I just couldn't help myself this week. I think it was my husband wasn't there to rein me in and say, "Don't do that, Jen." It's like, oh no. Yeah. But
I totally agree with you there. Yeah. I think, as I said at the beginning of the series, these, because I think Formula One has many artificial fans, and I'm a pure Formula One fan. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to say I'm an artificial one who's come in last year. I've been following it since I was 4 years old. Mm-hmm. I've known everything since, and I know Formula One inside out. But I just feel like how social media and how things have gone, Formula One is not how... Formula must be loving it, but for me, it feels wrong. I thought Formula E would bring out the pure motorsport fans. Because, yes, there's no noise, and I know that's part of the purity, but motorsport fans we can put that to one side.
Yeah.
Because what we're seeing in Formula E is great racing, and that's all motorsport fans want to see.
Yeah, I want to see the cars side by side. I want to see them pushing each other into the corner, and I want to cheer, whether it's my driver who's about to get overtaken or my driver that's doing the overtaking. I want to cheer a great overtake. I was screaming at the television when Heidfeld was going to overtake Prost. And yes, Heidfeld's one of my favourites, but it was just so exciting because it's the last corner of the race and he's going for that overtake. It's just, I don't see how anyone could not get excited by this.
And with most motorsport, I know when you watch Formula One, World Endurance Championship, well, touring cars, you can hear a little bit of noise, obviously, that the cars make. But when you're watching a race and you're watching the side, you're selectively attending to the racing. You can't hear the noise.
Exactly.
I couldn't hear the noise. They could have been making the best noise in the world, the Formula E cars, when they were doing the overtakes. But you can't hear them when you're watching it on the TV or on a monitor because you're too engrossed in it.
That's right. You're listening to the commentators and, all the other things that are going on. I am kind of glad. I didn't dislike the music, but I really disliked the safety car voiceover. So I'm kind of glad that's gone out of the broadcast. But yeah,
that was the most annoying thing in testing because I was right by it in the pit lane, and I was like, oh,
it's just awful. Speaking of Senna and the fan boost, he's going to have fan boost all season. Let's face it. He has, what did we say, 600,000 fans on Twitter. He's always going to get the fan boost. It's a given. He managed to use it for the first time, and he might have been caught out by it a little, I think. He hit the button, and all of a sudden he had a bit more power than he thought he would, and a bit less brakes than he thought he would. So, first time around didn't work so well. Second time around, worked perfectly for him.
No, Bruno Senna did it was a great race for him in terms of, apart from the last bit. But he used the fan boost effectively, and we saw it. But it's just like with the DRS, and the fan boost is exactly the same. You're braking at a certain point, but when you get more speed, you tend to think you've missed your braking point because you've come out this corner so much quicker than you usually have, which you've got into the rhythm of going into that corner. So when suddenly you're out of sync with the speed, you miss the braking point, and that's what happened on one stage with Bruno Senna. But the first time he did it, he timed it to perfection and got the overtake, and that's why he got voted.
Yep, exactly. And look, that they were told in the driver briefing, please use the fan boost. Alejandro Agag did stand up in front of them and say, please use the fan boost. Because I think there'd been some talk that the drivers may not use it because it's a non-sporting of them. But yeah, I think it would have been, while I agree with that, and part of me goes, yeah, okay. The other part of me says, if you're going to make this a big thing in the championship, and if you're going to spend that much time on social media rallying for the fan boost, which they all have, then use it. Because otherwise you're just going to disappoint your fans and they're not going to vote again and you're going to lose fans. I think it's stupid. So it was nice to see people using it. Heidfeld did use his the first time before he crashed. And Katherine Legge obviously didn't get to use hers. But it was nice to see Bruno put that, flick the paddle and make the overtake. And I haven't got who he made the overtake on written down in front of me because I didn't get put to that point in my race review. On to Trulli, Jarno Trulli, and the Trull E-train, which was really funny because it was like everyone made the same joke everywhere. The entire Twitter. I was surprised Trull E-train wasn't trending. Hey, try saying that 10 times fast. He looked great. For most of the race, he looked awesome.
He was my driver of the weekend. I think he put that Trulli Formula E car places where it's not ready to be yet.
Absolutely. And
to qualify in 6th and to be in 2nd place, yes, he made the mistake with. But I reckon, the mistake with Nelson Piquet, it was probably the pressure. He knew he was in 2nd. He knew this was a huge result. Mm-hmm. And you're trying your best, and, it went against him. And he ended up getting a drive-through penalty, and then it was just like, we might as well just call it a day because we're not going to get anything out of this anymore. Exactly. Which was such a shame for Trulli because, he was a star of, for me, he was a star of Putrajaya because no one expected that in qualifying. From how they've tested, They were the last team to get a hold of the car, make any improvements. Testing wasn't as good. They had many problems. Beijing, they weren't quick. They were at the back of the grid. And then he qualifies in 6th, I believe it was.
Yep.
It was just amazing what he did with that car.
Yeah, and it gives me hope because I think Michaela Turuti is she's at the different end of her career to Katherine Legge. I think that she's got a lot of potential. I'm not saying that Katherine Legge's at the end of her career, but I'm just saying that Michaela is younger. She's on a winning high with her blank pain win this year.
She's already forgotten about.
Yeah, exactly.
And I told her, I asked her, I said, it's her first question. I was just like, are you feeling all right? How's the back surgery? She said, what surgery? Yeah. And gave me a big smile.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. She is, she's definitely someone to watch. And I think with the guidance of and experience of Jarno Trulli in that team, I'm sure that he is going through that race piece by piece with her, showing her what he did. They look very tight as a team. I'm hoping for big things from her by the end of the season. Maybe we can get her the fan boost. We might have to do a rally to get her the fan boost for the next race.
Yeah, she's a lovely person. She, like most of them are, but she's going to learn a lot. And people are thinking, yes, look at Jarno Trulli. He's had a great race, and Michaela wasn't, that far. Yes, she was hit, and she was quite low down in qualifying. Mm-hmm. But she's still learning. We got to remember that she's a race winner in AutoGP. Yep. So, she's a good driver. She just, these cars are hard to master. They're completely different to what any of these drivers have ever raced before. Mm-hmm. So, I think once she gets the handle of it, I just think, obviously the most experienced drivers that have had the Formula One experience, that have had, World Endurance Championship, they can handle the cars, they can adapt quicker. But, when Michaela's in the lower formulas, coming to a car that's really slippery, it's going to take time for her to learn. So, once she gets to fully grips with it, I reckon she'll be okay.
Absolutely. I think on to Venturi, who, Stefan Sarrazin, where did he finish? I have no concept.
Stefan Sarrazin was down in 12th place.
Yeah, so again, someone that I completely didn't see through the race. I don't even know what happened with him.
Well, I'm surprised Stefan Sarrazin could even stay awake, to be fair. 1 week in France, racing in rally. The next week he's winning the WEC in Bahrain, and then the next week he's in Malaysia. Like, how jet lagged could you be?
And then this week he's in, where are they?
He's back in Sao Paulo.
Yeah.
So he's had a crazy month. It wasn't a very crazy race for him in Formula E, but in terms of being active, he was extremely active. But it was just same as in Beijing, really. Sarrazin, he's a class driver. We got so many. We're going through all the teams now. He's such a good driver. They're all great drivers. We've got such a great field. And he just won the World Endurance Championship race in Bahrain for 6 hours and comes and finishes 12th in Formula E. That shows how competitive Formula E is, and that's why I don't understand. Okay, yes, we don't have the noise, but we have the racing. We have the field. Yep. We've got a great start field. But Sarrazin, I don't know if he's... But, if we think about Sarrazin in a more critical way, he hasn't actually driven an open-wheel car for a very long time.
That's very true.
It's been very... and this is a completely different open-wheel car to what he drove last time, which was like a test. He had a test car once in Formula One, and he did do one race a very long time ago.
Wow, that is a long time ago.
It was the early 2000s that he had one race. I can't remember where it was, but he had one race. Just to fill in for somebody, I can't remember who. I was only about 6 or 7 probably when he was...
I was a little older, but I haven't done my research.
Yeah. It's just my motorsport brain. I've got so many facts and figures in there that, I could use for other things, but have stored in my brain at this time in my life. But we know he's an amazing driver, and I think again, same as Michaela Trulli, if he can just grasp this car in the next couple of races. I know there's no in-season testing, and Venturi had a decent test session. There was a few times where he broke down. There was a session on the final day. The only thing I noticed from Sarrazin is he sits so much higher than any other Formula E driver on the grid. He is. I don't know if he's so high up on the cars. It's really unbelievable. Whereas everyone's quite buried in the cockpit, and you can see his shoulders nearly from watching
I wonder whether it's just
it-
because he's comfortable from the WEC sort of position and stuff like that, where he feels like he needs to see more.
Yeah, it could be simple as that. He said he's still got to learn these cars, and I think they are difficult cars to drive. I reckon if you put us or anyone listening in the show and gave us the first lap in that car, we'll be going, "Well, I wasn't expecting that."
Mm-hmm.
Straight away as we go into the first corner, I thought these were going to be kind of easy, but they're not going. They're not easy cars to drive. I won't say believe me, I haven't driven one, but speaking to these are top quality drivers that we got in there, and with Formula One and World Endurance Championship experience, and they're hitting the walls.
Mm-hmm.
But this doesn't happen at Monaco. This rarely happens at Monaco, and they do 78 laps an hour, 40 minutes, and they don't touch the wall.
Yep.
Give them 5 minutes at Putrajaya, and they're all hitting the wall.
Yep. So Stefan's finished 12th, and of course Nick Heidfeld did not finish, but he was also excluded. I've got no explanation for this aside from for changing doing a pit stop outside of the pit box is the explanation. Let me just read it again. Excluded for not changing car within the box. So whether he tried to come walk back to the pits and get into the other car and drive away, and then was told, no, you can't do that. It's just an odd little note at the bottom of the classifications for the race saying that he was excluded for not changing the car in the pit box.
Yeah, because I obviously didn't bring his first car in, so
yeah,
they probably tried to find a loophole in the rules, which backfired.
Yep.
To want to get him in, but to be fair, even if they did get him out and he was out, he weren't going to be in contention unless the whole virtually everybody in front of him, about 6 or 7 cars in front of him, dropped out the race.
Exactly.
Otherwise, that was the only way he was going to score points.
Well, he might have got his fastest lap or something like that. But
he could have got a fastest lap, that's true.
But that's it. I think that in Beijing we saw that everyone who came in with a broken car, like Buemi and Sato, they actually did manage to drive the car into the pits before they went back out just for that extra lap. So they may have tried that, and we'll see. I'm sure we'll hear about it in the next race. And on to the winners of the race. For me, Virgin Racing, we had Jaime Alguersuari, who did sort of poodle around, but did finish 9th, did put in the fastest lap. They obviously sacrificed, I reckon they sacrificed a place to give him the fastest lap, using that bit of extra energy and stuff like that. Fastest lap again, it's such a disappointing time at 109 kilometres an hour, but we do know on this track they were putting much higher speeds so it's a bit deceptive, that fastest lap time.
Was the 109 average lap, or was
I think it's average. The
average 109 is not too bad because it was 98 in Beijing, wasn't it, or something like that?
Yeah, something like that. Yep.
So it was a bit faster than. But we know these cars, like, it's something that we just got to accept. I feel for this season, we know they're not going to be as quick. The time, it's just such a brand new sport. The technology is going to grow. And, Formula One, it's been a pinnacle motorsport. But even when that started back in the 60s, it took time for that to, end up becoming road car stuff. Like back in the 90s and 80s and stuff like that, cars didn't have ABS, cars didn't have traction control. Mm-hmm. And now cars have ABS and cars have traction control. That was from Formula One.
Yep.
So Formula E are going to produce electric technologies for electric cars, which are going to be in our cars in 5 to 10 years' time. In electric cars, and instead of charging it every 20 minutes, I don't know how. I don't own an electric car, so I don't know how often you have to charge it. But soon you might not have to charge it for as long. Yeah, so it can be in the mains for a shorter period of time, but it will charge you for just as long or even more.
Look, my brand new Samsung Galaxy Note, which I love, has fast charging on it. It charges to 50% in 30 minutes. And that's a huge breakthrough for these types of batteries, I am told. It can only be so long before we see that going to higher capacity batteries like what we have in the cars. And if anyone wants to write in and tell me that I'm wrong, please do so. But I'm pretty sure that sort of technology is going to move along. We are seeing these cars, the electric cars on the road. I got a tweet from Super License again this week saying that they'd seen the i8 on the road in Melbourne with a lovely little photo of it. It does look like a Lotus Elise. It's a strange looking little car.
It's a lovely looking car.
It is a lot. This is BMW. If you want to give me one, I'll drive it around for you.
Please. we will publicise this car so much from Formula E Zone.
That's right.
And the E-lectric podcast. Just give us the car. Come
just
on. In return, no money. Just give us the car.
Our 300 listeners. We'll love to hear it.
Yes.
Look, and I am grateful for every one of you 300 listeners out there.
I'm equally as grateful.
Yes, and all of the people that go read Formula E Zone, we just, you know what, we do it because we love it, and we love bringing it to you guys, and so we appreciate every bit of feedback that we get, and every little like, and some days you sit there and go, some days I watch the ticker go over, and it's like, why am I watching the ticker? Because it's my life outside of doing this. Is I also have the real-time stats up for my company's website all day. So I feel like sometimes I spend my whole life watching stats. But, these things happen. On to, back to Virgin, because I got distracted again. Jaime El-Shawari, good race, really. Solid
race. He's got 2 points for fastest lap and 2 points for finishing in ninth. So finished today with 4 points to his name, which it's not bad. Yes, he probably would have liked to have been with his teammate Sam Bird, but Jaime, he had that collision in qualifying, so that completely put him out of any qualifying contention. Wasn't able to get as quickly through the field as the Degrassi and Buemi, but Virgin had a very good race, and Sam Bird did run away with it. But we have to remember, in the closing stages, Lucas Degrassi and Buemi were catching on Sam. Whether or not Sam was relaxing or not is probably what happened. But they were catching. So Virgin, they're getting better. But I don't think Jaime would have had the car like Degrassi and Buemi to quickly go through the field.
I agree.
From the back of the pack. So to finish in ninth from starting about 18th, 17th place was a very good achievement for Jaime, and I think he'll be happy. And getting the fastest lap, 4 points, better than 2.
That's right. Much better than 2. So, Sam held it together. Like, they held on to their bottle, and I was watching that battery before he pitted, and they had the battery thing up on screen, and it ticked over from 4% to 3% while we were watching, and I'm like, man, if you run out of batteries, that's just so bad. It'll be like the Energizer Bunny on the Duracell Bunny or whatever it is, doing down to out of batteries. And it's like, oh, don't do that, please, Sam, don't do that. And he didn't. They pitted just as that battery would have been running out, and managed to get out in the second car. And he had Serbia dead to rights, and we know that Serbia was having issues, but that overtake was lovely. Just little cutback, Serbia went a little deep, and Sam just went boom off into the distance. I was thrilled for him. I cheered the whole race for Sam to get out in front, and mainly because I'm contrary, and Rod from Super License had said that he wanted Sam to not finish very well. But I thought it was great. I enjoyed watching it.
No, Sam had a great race, and we know, as I said, we know he's good. He had that really good season, I think it was 2 seasons ago now, in GP2, where he went it down to the wire for the championship and just lost out because he had a horrible start like App did in Malaysia. But once he got that lead, he had that racing control. And he looked like he was under control. He never looked like he was under pressure for 1 second in that race. Once he got that, moved on Serbia. And it was textbook, sweep underneath on the inside, cut the corner, get the better line out of the exit of the corner, and just did Serbia fantastically, and then ended up sweeping from the outside to the inside to get the inside for turn 4. And it was a great overtake, and full credit to Sam. He deserved that win. No, he did everything he needed to do, and even if Degrassi and Buemi caught him up, I can't see him have overtaken him. He was just that much in control.
Exactly. I think the gap, I'm trying to see, but my printout is very small. So the gap
I had
to...
4.1, I believe.
Yeah, 4.1 and 5, and yeah, so another sort of just over a second and a half back to Sebastian by the end. But I think they sort of spaced out by the end. I have to say I was completely wrong about the track. I thought that the straight side was going to be really boring and the curvy side was going to be really interesting. But it was turn 1, 2, and 3, where we saw all the overtaking. They were great corners. I was really surprised.
No, yeah, when I was having a look at the track and all the pictures of the track, I thought could be one of the best tracks of the season. Because there's lots of places to overtake. And that hairpin, yes, it was unbelievably tight, but how fun was it to see him enter there, brake, and then completely turn the whole steering wheel, kick all crossed arms, and then completely release it like madmen in order to get it straight again. It was absolutely fantastic. And obviously,
such a good shot. Like, it was such a good visual on the TV to see them all just coming towards you, and there's like, yes, get away. But I loved it.
A few seconds of madness every lap just to make sure you turn a corner. Loved it. It was great.
Yeah, definitely. Give that man a Formula One track, I think. That he's an architect from Britain. I don't have his name in front of me, but he's an architect from Britain, and then he designed that track. And I thought, give that man a Formula One track. He can be my next Herman Tilke, because I'm sick of Herman Tilke tracks. They're just boring me to tears. And there was elevation, and there was bumps, and there was paint, and there was just everything you love about a street circuit. It was so good. I'm going to talk about the one team we've touched on very briefly, but I'm going to come back to it, is the ITV broadcast team. They were great. I loved it. I loved the post race with Alex Brundle. I found him really engaging. He's got a slightly too animated face, but he's really excited. It'd be like watching me on television. I get way too excited about things. But
he is like a puppy. I would compare him to a puppy.
Yeah, definitely a puppy. But that's all right. I like cute animals. He's fine by me. But he also brings quite a good flow and experience, and I found him much more engaging than Jan Mardenborough. And that's, probably unfair to Jan, because Alex has spent his whole life listening to someone talk about motorsport.
Yes.
So, and he has
and
the same...
I'm pretty sure that going into that race, mine, Brundle, had him sit down and had him in a class at home. This is how you do it. This is why I'm so good.
He's got his dad's mannerisms.
Yes,
he pauses in the same places, and it was really sweet to watch, actually, and I enjoyed what he had to say. He had to say some really insightful things. Mark Priestley, again, he says some insightful things. My problem with Mark Priestley is always looks like he's just come off a 3-day bender. so when I'm watching him, I was like, wow, did you have a shower before you come on TV? I'm sure that's not the case.
To be fair, he's been up all night.
True. They had been up all night. I should take that into account, that you poor UK.
And I give Jenny Gow some credit. I was so I thought to myself, who's going to present the show? Like, who'd be on the show for ITV? Because on Thursday she's tweeting pictures. I'm in Abu Dhabi for the Formula One, and then Friday night I'm on a plane back to the UK. I've just touched down in London, and as soon as she's finished, I'm on a plane again back to Abu Dhabi. So, and she didn't look too tired, to be fair. On the TV show, and for that amount of travelling, and travelling takes it out on all of us, and I'm sure it takes it out on you guys as well, but she did well. Give her full credit.
I was astounded at all the different people that ended up in Abu Dhabi. Like, Prost was in Abu Dhabi the next day.
Yeah.
It's like, just go get on a plane. Like, I mean, I know I've done it for work, but still, that's just... I'll just get on a plane from Malaysia to Abu Dhabi. It's 9 hours. Why not?
I'll be fine.
Yeah. Prost is an old man. I mean, seriously. But they were great. I loved it. I thought the ITV broadcast was, the lead up to the race was great. They had a few technical difficulties, which will come to more technical difficulties very shortly. And they put it together, and I really enjoyed it, and I think it's a great broadcast, and I hope everyone else is tuning in for more than just the race.
Yeah, they'll get better at it. I'm very proud that they don't show adverts, because ITV, when they had Formula One coverage, did put adverts during the race, so I'm very proud that they are not doing that.
Yeah, ads during motorsport is one of my real bugbears. In Australia, we get lots of ads during the Formula One, and it's just so bad. It's like, oh, stop. It's terrible.
You'd always come back and you've missed the overtake for a lead or the main crash that happened in race. You always come back, this is sorry.
Yeah.
Like, you missed it.
Yep. That happens a lot. The other technical difficulties, again, the FIA website. They promised us live streaming. They did not manage to get live streaming. We did have live timing, but we didn't have live streaming.
I'll give one credit to Formula E. You were able to get streaming on your phone.
I didn't try on my phone.
I did manage to check if it worked on the app, and it did work on the app. But yeah, I was just like, I've said to myself, I had the conversation with Formula E. They wanted it to stream for China, and they said, look, we're going to get it from Malaysia, and they did get it. I got on my phone, but I was shocked. Yeah, the website crashed for China minutes before practice.
Yeah.
The website crashed for Formula E about an hour to 2 hours before practice had even started. I was on the media bit trying to get all pictures, everything lined up, ready to go, find out what's going on, just to check any latest news that they posted, and it just died, and I thought, I got an hour and a half.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's called cloud front caching. If anyone at FIA Formula E needs some help with that, I hardly recommend AWS hosting and setting up some cloud front caching, because that's what I had to do last week. So, look, they'll get there. I currently am not able to see any of the on-demand content on the Formula E website. So when I try to click on the videos of the last couple of races, they're not showing for me. So if anyone is out there and able to see them, do let me know, because maybe it's just me. It'd be unusual if it was just me, and I have done some testing. But, these I'd like to see them get all this under control, because I think it's a great initiative to have all of the races, the practice, the qualifying available for people to watch. The post-race wrap-ups, the highlights, they're all over the video side of things. Just get it working 100% and we'll be absolutely all over the shop.
I'll tell you what Formula E should do, maybe to ease their pressure, maybe make some more money, is maybe to sell the rights to the TV companies so they could watch. They could show the qualifying rather than everyone coming to the race, to the website. That could be a shout.
I think I watched qualifying on a German channel. Yeah, it was a German channel I was watching. But they had the ITV commentators. They just had German ads. As I was, like, oh, okay. Also, just maybe just put it on YouTube.
Just try something else. I know you want views. Everyone wants views. On your website.
Surely putting it on YouTube would be the best place to get views. I know that people are like, oh, well, why would we give YouTube our traffic? But just do it, because it's the place where people go to watch video. Like, how many people don't go to Google and sort of type YouTube video of something, like when they type it looking for something, and it's just like, well, Heidfeld crash, YouTube. Like, I don't understand why they wouldn't put it there. It's just petty traffic hoarding, which you just don't have time for. Get out there, get on the biggest markets, and they're doing that in every place. YouTube channel, just letting it down a little, and the YouTube channel is great, so I really shouldn't say that. But I just loved it. I had a great time. I had more fun than I had the first race, and I had a lot of fun the first race. We're building a really great community. I've got some great listeners who have some back and forth with on Twitter. The small, semi-professional, slightly amateur media community that we're building. What can we call ourselves? The freelance Formula E media community that we're building is great. There's a great core group of people who are hanging together and having some back and forth, and whoever runs actually, no, I'm not going to say that right now. I'm going to come back to that. let's go on to your star of the race. Now, I know you've already sort of told me, but let's reiterate. Who was your star of the race, and who was your short circuit? Who really let the team down?
My star of the race will be Lucas Di Grassi. Sam Bird was great, but Lucas Di Grassi was an amazing performance. He got out and made sure he was ahead. He was behind the damned cars and got ahead of them, and obviously came from the back. Full credit to Sam. Did a great race. I did say Jarno Trulli earlier, but that was my star of the weekend. Because qualifying, and he did a good job in the race, but he did have a few mistakes which let him down. Whereas Di Grassi, he had the mistakes in qualifying, but was the star in the race. Why Trulli was the star of the weekend for me. Absolutely,
I'm with you on the Lucas Di Grassi. I think he's probably going to be our champion because he's going to be the most consistent. I was thinking that Sebastian Buemi would be up there, but I think Lucas is just showing that little bit more edge, a little bit more boldness early in the season.
Still a long way to go. We can't count out Nico Prost. I reckon D'Ambrosio and Sergio will be there for the whole way. Abt will be there for the whole way. Heidfeld will be there for the whole way. So we'll have a lot of drivers that will be in from race 1 to race 10 or 9. But the 10, they're very sure that they will have a 10th race. Where it will be, we don't know. I'm trying to get it out of them, but they're very clever and they won't give it to me.
I'd be really surprised if they don't have a 10th race.
They said it's almost a certainty that they will have a 10th race. I am speaking to Spain in Zaragoza over the next few days because they're down. I believe they're down on the short lift. They've been posting pictures of track layouts for things. So whether or not I'll be them, I've set up an interview for them over the weekend. So stay tuned to Formula E-Zone for that.
We will.
Give myself a little probe there.
Yeah, do that. I'm hopefully talking to Tom Phillips this week, who is the media officer, and he's been the person answering all the questions. So he will prevaricate and not tell me anything, but that's okay. We'll still talk to him about it if I can. Your short circuit.
My short circuit of the race will be... I feel horrible saying this, but I'm going to say Katherine Legge.
Yep. Yes.
I want her to do well. I want everyone, obviously, to do well. But, I've seen Takuma Saga come in and he did a good job. And Tony Felix Acosta come in and done a good job. And Katherine, she's not getting, she just needs to find the rhythm. That's what she needs to do. And I think once she finds the rhythm, she'll be okay. They probably could, but for me, Katherine was the main short circuit, but horrible to say, but for that race, definitely. Sorry.
Yep. Hey, someone has to get it. It's got to be someone, and I'm not going to chump out and not and go with the safety car again. I promise. I am going to go with Oriol Servier's team and the car in the pit stop, because since you told me that, it's disappointed me so much, because he was looking so good, and I'm kind of excited to say 40-year-old Spaniard on a podium and things like that, because I think these are different cars and it's not going to be the young man sport that Formula One is turning into, and I'm not even sure why Formula One is turning into a young man sport. Really, we'll talk about that another time. But I think, once you told me that, I was really disappointed, because he held that car really well together, and to finish 7th, to miss out by an 18-second error with the car not going to first, that's the short circuit for me. It's first gear. First gear is my short circuit. And I'm very disappointed on his behalf. That's all I've got. What about you?
No, it was a terrific race. Thank God we don't have to wait 70 days for the next race. It's only 15 days, 19 hours, 28 minutes and 39 seconds to go.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited to see what happens in 2 weeks, because, it's just like, the 70 days was just like, I couldn't even put out a news podcast.
It was
nothing
trying to
talk
churn
about.
out news was so hard.
There was nothing to talk about. We're talking about non-existent circuits that, like, oh yeah, they might go to Abu Dhabi because Alain Prost went to Abu Dhabi for a holiday. I was just like, no, stop. But yeah, I can't wait. We'll do a Punta del Este preview show, and hopefully we'll have some guests. I will be adding to this, so stay tuned, everyone, because I've got some great audio from our correspondent at the track, Kat Dow. She spoke to a few of the drivers after the race and prior to the race, so do stay tuned. We'll be going on to that just after this, but I will take the opportunity to thank Jack Giordmania from Formula E-Zone. Where can people find you on the web, Jack?
www.formulaezone.com. Yeah, I was going to say. I didn't know if I said too many W's there. And at Formula E-Zone on Twitter, we'll find us. Come and join the other group of people that we have, and that's where you'll find me.
Excellent. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure, and we'll talk again before the next race.
Yes.
Thanks.
Definitely. Thank you so much for having me on. It's been a very great privilege.
Always a joy. Always a joy. At E-lectric, we welcome your feedback and inquiries. You can reach us on Twitter at E_lectricpod. That's E_LECTRICPOD. Or via email podcast@e-electrified.com. All music courtesy of Kevin McLeod at incompetech.com. Additional audio sourced under fair use. See show notes for sources. E-lectric and its presenters are in no way employed by, affiliated with, or endorsed by the FIA. All views expressed are those of the presenters and represent neither technical nor legal authority.